related to what to do in the months leading up to submitting your graduate school applications. Ideally, it probably wouldn't hurt you to take a full year to really spend your time preparing, although that's not absolutely necessary. But I'm going to take it as if you were spending a full year before you were submitting your applications, and make a suggestion 12 months before you apply. Here's something you might do 11 months before, 10 months, and we're going to work through this very quickly. This is actually featured in my book, Roadmap for Graduate Study, in Chapter 1. I call it the 12-month checklist, as you can see here on the screen. And there are several other things I suggest for each of the months before you apply, but I'm highlighting a couple of, or one for each month at this point that I'd like to share with you. First, 12 months before you apply, it might not hurt you to really sit down and answer some personal questions about your decision to pursue graduate study at this point in time. For instance, have you asked yourself, why am I really doing this? Is it because my parents are putting pressure on me? Is it because I think I'll earn more money if I do it? Is it because I really want to expand my knowledge of a particular subject area? And I'm not suggesting any of these answers are right or wrong, but I think it would help you to be very clear about why am I doing this? And a related question is, why am I doing this now? Why this year rather than 2 years down the road? Or, why have I chosen to do this now? And another personal question, there are 7 of them in my book, but I'll give you one more for right now. And that would be, how do I best find that I learn in an academic setting? Is it more with a traditional lecture type classroom where I'm sitting in the audience and the professor is providing a lecture and I'm pretty much sitting there taking notes and just kind of soaking in everything the professor has to say? Or do I work better in an environment where there's a lot of interaction between the person that's leading the class and the participants, where there's lots of dialogue, group discussion, group projects? Is the case study method, especially if I'm considering business education, for instance, or law, is there more of an approach like that where you're studying cases that is more appealing to me? Have you considered the type of academic environment in which you think you would do your best? So that's an example of some personal questions to ask yourself. Another one obviously could be, are my finances in order? Am I ready to take on the financial commitment that this will obviously entail when I attend graduate school? Okay, 11 months before you apply. Here's where I'm bringing in this point about not narrowing your search too early. Do a broad search, perhaps on the internet. GradSchools.com is the best resource available that I know of to provide you with information about what graduate programs exist. I believe it's over 70,000 graduate programs are featured on GradSchools.com, and it's free of charge for you. You just log on to, and the website is right here in the lower right-hand corner of our screen today. You can log on to GradSchools.com. You will get an amazing amount of information on every graduate program in every field that there is today. I would urge you to do this. And once you've done that, let's move to 10 months here. Create a spreadsheet with options that you've discovered in your search. Let's say you go on GradSchools.com today or tomorrow or next week, and you're thinking about a master's program in psychology or a Ph.D. program in education or whatever it may be. And for some of these programs on GradSchools.com, for instance, you might have 600 different options. No, I've not made a mistake. I meant what I said. Over 600 options available to you, and you should take a look at as many of those as possible. And then maybe you would pick maybe 15, 20, or more. And initially, don't have any preconceived notions about these options yet. Just put them down, create a spreadsheet. On the left-hand column, my suggestion is do it in alphabetical order. Just, if this program looks of interest to you, doesn't matter what anybody else has said about it at this point. It doesn't even matter about the ranking at the moment. If it's of interest to you, put it on your spreadsheet. You're not saying you're going to apply there yet, but you're at least going to check it out. The more you do that, and the broader number of institutions you have on that spreadsheet to start with, the better off you're going to be. Now, as you're doing this, about 9 months out, you should start preparing to take some of the standardized tests that you will be required to take. For instance, the GRE, or the GMAT, or the LSAT, or the MCAT. If you are an international student and you are going to be required to submit a test that will demonstrate your ability to handle the English language, like the TOEFL or the IELTS tests, you should begin to get information about these tests, when they're offered, decide approximately when you may want to take them, and begin to do some preparation for them. There's some tremendous resources out there for each of these tests to help you actually study and get ready to take them so you'll do your best. Okay, let's move to our next slide where we're going to talk about what to do 8, 7, and 6, and 5 months out. As you get to 8 months out, remember what we said back around 11 or 10 months, you were creating a spreadsheet with your options. What you want to do on that spreadsheet is take a look at these institutions, go onto their websites, read up about their curriculum, their faculty, their student body, extracurricular activities, what scholarships are available, internships, placement rates of their graduates. All of these things I think would be important, and you could fill them in on your spreadsheet. You could have all of your institutions listed on the left-hand column of the spreadsheet, and across the right-hand column, some of these issues you're going to compare. And as you begin to do that, maybe you'll decide that if you started out with maybe 25 options on your list, well, maybe now you'll have it narrowed down to 20. Maybe there's 5 that you're going to drop off. And as you continue to do your research, you'll be continuing to narrow down that group to the final maybe 3, 5, 7 schools to which you will actually submit an application. So during this, especially starting about 8 months out, you want to start narrowing down your list of options. 7 months out, if you have an opportunity to schedule a campus visit at some of the institutions in which you are most interested, or even take their interactive tour or their virtual campus tour on their website, make sure you know something about the physical campus environment where you're going to be spending your time. I mean, for some people, they're going to be coming to the United States from another country or leaving the United States going to another country. You need to be prepared and understand a little bit of what the physical environment of the campus is going to be. If there are interviews that are available as part of the application process, or more importantly, if you're going to visit the campus, set up an interview with an admissions representative. Ask if you can meet with them, and have a list of questions available that you would ask them about this particular institution so that you're getting as much information as possible. 6 and 5 months out, respectively, you want to spend some time communicating with recent graduates from the institution and current students. This is an incredible way to get up-to-date, accurate, and honest information about these options. You would expect admissions officers to kind of want to sell all the positive points of the program. That is what they should be doing. They're representing the institution after all. But no institution is perfect. And what you want to find out is as much as you can, and I would think some of the best resources for you are folks who just graduated or are currently attending, where you can say to them, look, I want to know, what do you think of this place? Would you choose this again if you had the chance? Is it what you thought it was going to be? What are the best things about the program? What are the things you don't like about the program? Ask these tough questions now, well before you apply. So when you do, you are fully aware of kind of what this place is all about that has caused you to decide to apply. Now let me make sure I say here, you're not looking for perfection. You're not going to find the perfect place ever. But by virtue of the time you spend finding out as much as possible about these options, you're going to end up with a more realistic idea of what they're like before you apply. Okay, now let's go down to our final 4 months of what to be doing before you actually submit the applications. Well, I would suggest you prepare your list of recommenders. Decide who it is that you're going to ask to recommend you or do recommendations for you in the applications, and get that list ready to go. 3 months out would be an opportunity to start working on the essay questions that you're going to complete. You do not want to wait until the last minute before you do that. The longer you spend on your essays, the more quality work you will submit to the admissions committee. And in this day and age, not as many graduate schools offer interviews. It is a lot more based on reading the essays where they have an opportunity to hear your voice. So spending time making sure they are your best work is critical. 2 months out, obviously start to create your online application accounts. Begin to enter some of the data that you are able to enter on these, and then of course 1 month out, begin to carefully complete your applications. Do not wait until the night before. Give yourself several weeks. Many graduate students make this mistake. They wait literally until the last day, and then they scramble. And that only means you're going to make mistakes, or it will lend itself to you making more mistakes if you do this. So once again, here are just some tips and ideas of what to be doing as you are leading up to the application. In other words, what I hope you've discovered here in our time together, in the comments I've shared, is this is not all about just getting your applications ready. It's about taking a step back and doing your research, really doing some comparison shopping, taking time, being methodical about this, thinking it through before you submit those applications. That can make all the difference in your having a successful application process, but perhaps even more importantly, a successful graduate school experience. So thanks for listening. I hope again that you're typing in some questions. I'm going to be getting ready to take some of those questions fairly soon. Again, there are no bad questions. There are no dumb questions. I definitely would very much like to and hope you will ask questions, so please be typing them in. But before that, I have one more slide I'd like to share with you this afternoon. This is a little bit about the work that I do and a little bit about my website in case you would be interested in accessing it. My web address is www.gradschoolroadmap.com. As you'll see on this slide, among other things, I do offer one-on-one graduate coaching for those that are going through the application process. I would be delighted to speak with you about this. My email address is right there at the bottom of this screen, dmartin@gradschoolroadmap.com. Please don't hesitate to contact me. If I can be of any help to you at any point, I would welcome the opportunity. My book is available to you for purchase if you are an international student and you purchase the book and send me a receipt to my email address. I will send you free of charge my international student supplement to the book. This is an e-version of that supplement I will be happy to send to you. So once again, I want to thank GradSchools.com for inviting me to participate in this event today. It has been a pleasure to be here with you. It seems that many of you have stayed on throughout this presentation thus far. I appreciate that so very much. And I hope you're going to continue to stay on, because we're getting, as far as I'm concerned, to the most exciting part of this, and that is the opportunity for you to ask me some questions and have me provide some feedback. So without further ado, do we have some questions here? I think we do. And I am going to use just first names. I will read the question, and I will then mention who it is that asked this question, and then we will go through there. So keep asking your questions, okay? I believe the first question we have is from Jose, who has indicated that he has a diploma in science and technology from a particular institution in a particular country, and is wondering if he would be able to use that to get admitted into a graduate program. I believe, Jose, that that is what you're asking. I definitely think a diploma would be part of the process of what you would need to submit to an admissions committee for consideration. But I think what I would strongly recommend you do is, if you know the program, if maybe you're thinking about computing science technology, again, at the master's level, whatever the program, whether it's that or another field, what I think would be useful to do is for you to access information on the website of the institutions you're considering to find out what their requirements are for, if it's in the United States, for students that are coming in from outside the U.S. In some cases, a diploma will be acceptable. In some cases, they may want additional coursework. And the best way to access that information for you would be on their website, or you can send an email directly to the admissions committee. They will have an email address that you can use. It's usually admissionsinfo@ and the name of the institution .edu or something like that. And this is a very good question you're asking at the outset. I would strongly urge you to check out the website or just send this same question to the admissions folks and let them answer it for you. That was an excellent question. We now have a question from Melanie. And Melanie is asking, whoopsie daisy, oh my word, you're asking a lot of questions. This is great. Melanie said, I wish to apply for master's programs in the spring of 2015 and then in the fall of 2015 as a backup. How many should I apply for each cycle? Very good question, Melanie. While there's not an absolute answer to this question, I can tell you that my strong recommendation is that you don't apply to too few. I would think 3 to 5 options for the spring of 2015 would be probably a good number to consider. If you want to do a few more, that's fine. Many of the students I work with as a coach, it's usually 6 or 7 schools that they're applying to for whether it's a spring term or a fall term. It's usually 5, 6, or 7 somewhere. Sometimes it's a little more. Sometimes, depending on the program or the particular situation, it can be a few less than that. But I would say an average of maybe 5, 6, or 7. Good question. Okay, we have a question here from Muhammad, and he would like to know if he could study English language programs. Now, Muhammad, I'm not sure exactly what you're referring to in terms of which context. There are English language preparation programs in the U.S., and I think it says that Muhammad has left our chat room. Is that what that means? So maybe Muhammad will ask me that question offline, and I will be glad to answer it. But in case somebody else has asked this, let me just go ahead and say there are English programs available, English language programs in the United States. I will also tell you that in some cases, if an institution admits an international student, that they want them there, they may actually say to that student, we want you to come and enroll in an English language program on our campus before the start of the program. Many institutions offer English language programs here in the United States. That's a possibility that they might admit someone and yet want them to take some English language intensive study before the program starts. Okay, let's move to our next question. This is from Willow, and I think I'm going to like this question. I saw the word ranking in it, Willow, and I always like to talk about rankings, so let's see what you're asking. If rankings aren't that important, what exactly does a good ranking mean? Oh boy, Willow, I could spend an hour discussing this with you. I'll try to keep my answer as short as possible. If I'm going to be honest with you, I feel as though rankings are based on a limited number of criteria that the ranking organization uses to determine what that ranking will be. For instance, I'm not going to name names here, but there's one ranking organization that uses grades, test scores, and placement rates after graduation. In other words, how many graduates get a job before they graduate, within 3 months of graduation, within 6 months of graduation, and that's how they base their whole ranking. Others base it on other factors. So my point here is, if you look at some of the major graduate school rankings that are out there, none of them are identical. They're not the same. And my point here is that should help you see that there's no one overall arching ranking of institutions, and that many schools that are not, say, in the top 25 of a particular ranking, if you go on to their websites, if you do a broad search and you end up with an institution on your list that may not be in a top ranked position, Yet you might find as you research their website, their placement rates are outstanding. They have amazing graduates. Do you know there are famous graduates from just about every single institution in the United States? Here's one example. Have you ever heard of Eureka College in Illinois? I happen to live in Illinois, so that's probably why I know about this a little more. Do you know who went to Eureka College? Ronald Reagan, one of the presidents of the United States, went to Eureka College. Nobody's ever heard of it. It's never going to appear in a ranking. Tennessee State University is not a school that is going to be ranked highly, but you know who graduated from there? Oprah Winfrey. So all I'm saying is rankings tell you something based on the methodology of that ranking, but that's all. Can you tell that I'm very passionate about this, Willow? If I keep talking, I won't answer any more questions, so I'm going to move along here. But that was excellent. Thank you. If you have more questions about, by the way, if anybody has questions about the questions I'm answering here, more questions, my email address, I think, is still on your screen. It's at the bottom of the page, and my phone number's there even. Can you believe that? I'm giving out my phone number. So if you want to contact me at any time, you feel free. Okay, Alexandra has asked, this is excellent. You just keep bringing the questions, and I'll stay here and answer them. Alexandra, hello, I am an international student, and I need to take either the TOEFL or the IELTS, and the question is, what is better to pass if I'm going to plan to study in the U.S.? I think, Alexandra, what you might be asking here is whether the TOEFL or the IELTS would be preferred by more of the institutions in this country, or if you take the TOEFL, does that look better for you than the IELTS? Or you might be asking, is the TOEFL easier than the IELTS? Let me answer your first question. Almost any graduate institution in the United States now will accept the TOEFL or the IELTS, and there's no preference one way or the other. They're looked upon equally. So you're not hurting yourself or helping yourself by you're simply doing what you're being asked if you take one of them, which you're going to have to do. As for the ease of these tests, or which one is easier than the other, I don't think, again, there's a clear indication one way or the other. Some students do better on the TOEFL than they do on the IELTS, and vice versa. If you take one of these two tests and you don't do as well as you hoped, you might try taking the other one. What that would demonstrate to the admissions committee is that you're aware that you maybe didn't do quite as well and you wanted to try again to see if you can improve your score. So that's how I would answer that question. We have a second question here from Willow, who would like to know, how can you find recent graduates from an institution to contact? Do they have a list somewhere? Very good question, Willow. Yes, most admissions offices have a list of both current students and recent graduates who have expressed an interest in working with the admissions office in some way and would be willing to be in touch with you if you wanted to speak with them. Here's another possibility. You might check around with your friends, and maybe if you're in touch with your parents, and if you could, in your network of friends and contacts, is there anyone who attended this university you're thinking about? If so, you might ask them if they have any contacts of who are alumni who would also be willing to speak with you. So you could do it that way, or most institutions should have a list of students or graduates who would be willing to speak with you. Okay, next question from Alexandra. I'm an international student. Do I have a chance for financial aid or grants? Yes, you do. Most institutions in the United States make financial aid available to the students they admit, regardless of their citizenship. What you would need to do, again, is access the website of the institutions you are considering. There should be a great amount of information there about financial aid. How much financial aid is really available? You would get quite a bit of information on their website, and when you need to apply for it, who is considered for it, and if you happen to access this information on the website and it's not enough, it's not what you were hoping to find, or you still have more questions, once again, as I said earlier in answering one of my questions, you can always ask the admissions office you can send an email to the admissions office and specifically ask, what types of financial aid do you offer international students? Just put it right out there and let them ask you. Okay, we have a question from Liev, and this question is, what are the chances of obtaining a scholarship for master's programs? That's kind of similar to Alexandra's question. There is financial aid available at most graduate institutions. Once again, you would need to check with them individually to find out what is available, what they make available to their students in the form of financial assistance, whether it's scholarships, fellowships. I urge you to do this. Again, as part of your overall research with your graduate school spreadsheet, you should have a column that says financial aid. And as you contact these institutions, fill in that column with the information that they provide about the scholarships that are available. And then again, if you have questions, be sure to ask the admissions office about those. Good question. Alexandra has a question again. What if I will have a good score in the TOEFL and GRE? Will that give me a chance to get financial aid? Well, I don't think that a high score on the TOEFL usually enters into scholarship decisions, Alexandra. I'm not aware of that happening. I will say some institutions do use grades and test scores as part of the criteria for offering financial aid to someone. Here again, you would need to ask them specifically. When you start narrowing down your list of options to the number of institutions to which you're going to apply, it might be very worthwhile for you to send them an email message and say, what type of, or how do you make your decisions about financial aid? How do you decide who's going to receive it? Is it based on more academic qualifications like grades and test scores? Is it based on work experience? Is it based on financial need? What is the way in which you offer your financial aid? That's the best way for you to find that out. But I will say in general, many institutions do use academic information like grades and test scores to help them determine who's going to receive financial aid that they may have. Okay, the questions continue to come in. We have one here from Francis. Thank you, Francis. Let's see. Sorry if this question has been addressed already. That's okay. You're in the process of applying to physical therapy school. Excellent. And you're hung up on the personal statement. What are admissions committees? Oh boy, Francis, we could do a whole session on the personal statement, but this is an excellent question, and no one has asked it yet so far, so this is good. I'm glad you did. My best advice, first of all, is if you are writing a personal statement and there is information that the institution provides about what that personal statement should include, make sure to include it. And make sure that's the information you provide first. If you don't get any help from the institution, all they say is, we want a personal statement from you. Let me quickly tell you a couple of things that I would suggest you include in your personal statement. And this is in no particular order at this moment, but here's a couple of things that you want to include. And if others of you that are listening in, this would apply to all of you. First and foremost, why it is that you have selected that particular institution. Why did you select? I'm in Pennsylvania right now. An institution that's not too far from me is the University of Pennsylvania. So let's say you're applying to the physical therapy program or another program, and then they say, we want a personal statement. You want to tell them why you chose their program, and you better be sure to give specific reasons that apply only to that school. The worst thing you can do, for instance, with the University of Pennsylvania is say, I'm applying to your school because you're in the Ivy League, and you're such a, that will turn them off, I grant you. As opposed to saying, you know, in your program, in your physical therapy program, you have a special internship with this particular clinic over here. I haven't seen any other school that has that. That's something I'm looking for. That's what they're interested in. Something that applies to their program that caused you to choose it that would not apply to any other program. If you do that, that's helpful. Another part of your personal statement should be a little bit about what you believe you will bring to the table as a student. What are the positive things that you will offer? You're obviously deciding to apply to this institution because of what you think they will give to you, but you need to demonstrate that you want to give back. So what will I bring to the table as a graduate student at this institution? In other words, why do I hope you will admit me? What is it that I'm hoping you're going to see in me? And this isn't, I'm not talking that you want to be arrogant here, but you want to be confident. You want to say some things about yourself that you believe are positive attributes and qualifications and characteristics that will cause them to decide to admit you. You might want to talk a little bit about how you became interested in the field of physical therapy, for instance. Since, Francis, this is your question, you might want to say a little bit about your background. How did you fall in love with physical therapy that you would like it so much that you want to pursue a degree in this field? So here again, why the institution, why the field of study, and what you bring to the table as a candidate, I think would be good. And one final suggestion here, if there's something about your application that you think is a liability, let's say you have a lower GPA than some people, other applicants that might be applying, or you took a year off in the middle of your undergraduate experience. You need to explain those things. Don't make excuses for them, but you need to realize that if you think the admissions committee is going to look at this and say, I wonder what was going on here, then that's something you need to address in the personal statement. You could just say, you will notice that my undergraduate GPA was a bit lower this particular year, or you will notice that I took a break in my undergraduate education. And you don't have to go into all the details. You don't have to share a bunch of private things about yourself. I'm not saying that, but you do need to address the question that they're obviously going to be asking. And then at the end of the personal statement, this is something when I work with my students one-on-one, I always suggest that they say something like this: I really want to attend this program. I really hope you're going to admit me. And to that end, if you have any questions for me, please contact me. I will be glad to speak with you. If you would like to do an interview with me, I would welcome that opportunity. And then don't give them your email address. Give them your phone number. Give them a number where they can call you. But make sure your answering machine message is professional. I could write a book about calling applicants and they'd go, yo man, dude, or whatever, leave a message, beep. I mean, it was so unprofessional and it made an impression. So make sure when they pick up the phone, if you're not there, Francis, I'll use your name. Hello, this is Francis. Thank you for calling. I would really like to speak with you. Please leave a message. I will call you back. Make it a professional message. Give them your phone number. Encourage them to call you. That gives you a little bit of an edge because that's an additional contact with you that they might not have otherwise had. Excellent question. Leav asked another one here. Let me see if I can. Okay. Some institutions ask for, this is going to be a good one, 2 to 3 letters of recommendation. Should all of those letters be from professors, or can I ask recommenders from work managers or other acquaintances that may have a contributing opinion? Excellent question, Leah. My strong recommendation is that you do not just use faculty or professors, that you have a mixture of people who've worked with you in a different type of setting. The only time you would have to do that is if the application instructions say that the only people they want to hear from are faculty or professors. If that's what's there, then obviously you have to follow what they say. But if they just say to you, we want 2 to 3 letters of recommendation, and you get to pick who those individuals are going to be, by all means, you should have a professor or two, or a work colleague, manager, someone who observed you in an internship, for instance. Absolutely. The more varied the backgrounds and the more positive the recommendations from those backgrounds, that will be helpful to you. Excellent question. And we have another one here. I'm trying to see if I can scroll myself down here. Here we go. Whoops. I just lost that. Bear with me. Okay. How many applications can I do? This is from Alexandra. Do I have limits? No, you can you can apply to as many programs as you want. Now keep in mind, every one of these has an application fee, and there's fees for getting your GRE scores sent to these institutions, and there's fees for your TOEFL scores. It can be pretty expensive, Alexander, but more importantly, I would urge you to not apply to, you know, a bunch of like 10 or 15 schools. I don't, unless I would talk to you privately and I would know what your rationale was and what your thinking is about that. I would feel as though that is a little too many. I think if you really do your homework, as we were talking about at the beginning of this time together, you really take the time to do your homework and do your research and do your comparison shopping, you will end up with a smaller group of schools that really fit all the things that you're looking for. So, but again, you can apply to as many as you want. There's no limit there from their end. But again, here's another thing. It's a lot harder to prepare 20 applications than it is to prepare 6. You could be working for months trying to get all that together, and that could be an awful strain on you. So I think if you do your research and you come up with 5, 6, or 7 programs, ideally, that would be the number I would suggest. Now, I see we still have several attendees here. I'm going to make a last-ditch effort to ask if anyone else has. I don't see any other questions unless hope I'm not missing anything here. Do we have no more? I'll wait just another 5 or 10 seconds. If someone is furiously trying to type a question, I don't want to cut you off. But again, GradSchools.com has been kind enough to let me provide my contact information to you. That is still on the screen you're looking at. My phone number in Chicago and my email address, and I absolutely welcome your contacting me. Oh, it looks like we have another question. Oh, we got 2 questions. Good, they're still coming in. I love it. Okay. Lev, is it good to go and visit a school before even the app? Oh, absolutely. Absolutely, it's good to visit before you apply. It may be that once you visit, you may decide not to apply. You saved yourself a whole application fee. Absolutely. If you can visit campuses before you apply, and while you're there, sit in on a class, talk with students, meet with the admissions committee, and get a sense of what it feels like. You could walk on a campus and you think you might be there for a couple hours and say to yourself, oh my gosh, there is no way I would ever want to be here. And you just eliminate that from your list. So this is why I say getting that information so many months ahead of time, 11 months, 10 months out, preparing your spreadsheet, getting as much information as you can. By all means, visit as soon as you can. And where you can afford to do so and you have the ability, campus visit before you apply is excellent. Excellent question. Terry has a question here. This is a very good question, Terry. What advice do you have for someone who is a working professional applying for grad school? My advice is way to go. I think that's excellent and that you are thinking about this. My advice in terms of the process, Terry, is not all that different in terms of doing your research and finding the programs that you believe are best for you. But you have an added benefit as an applicant because not only do you have undergraduate and academic information to bring to the table, you actually have work experience to bring to the table. You have additional experience following your undergraduate career, which to me is always a plus. So my advice is the same in terms of doing the research, but I would obviously strongly recommend that you make sure and highlight to the admissions committee not only your success in the academic world, but the fact that you're already proving successful in the professional world, in the corporate arena, in your career. I think that's a plus. Both of my graduate degrees, by the way, were earned well after I graduated from college. I started my master's program, well, not all that far. I started my master's program 2 years after I graduated from college. I started my Ph.D. program 15 years after I graduated from college. And you better believe the fact that I had work experience was a help in both cases. Excellent question. Lev has asked another question. In the context of the previous question, is it a good idea to meet with faculty before I am certain of where you want to study. In other words, I think what you're saying, Leib, is in addition to visiting the campus before you apply, would it be helpful to speak with faculty? Yes, it would, but I want to give you a tip. This is an inside tip and there's no charge. How about that? Faculty are not always, I'm just going to tell you the truth. Faculty do not always want to speak with prospective students as much as they do with admitted students or current students in their program. Faculty are very much busy in many different directions. Many people are asking them to do things. Their time is very limited. And so if you were to contact a faculty member before you apply and they don't respond to you, do not take it personally and do not assume that that's something about you. If you'll excuse me, I just need to have a drink of water. There we go. I got so choked up over this question. So if you send a message to a faculty member, they may not always respond, but it's worth trying. And if you visit the campus, it may be that the admissions office might have a list of faculty members who are willing to speak with prospective students from time to time. So it's possible. Okay. These questions are excellent. I mean that sincerely. It shows me that you were listening earlier on. I sense that some of you may have joined us more recently. So once again, my name is Don Martin. I am a graduate school expert. I spent 28 years working in graduate admissions at Columbia University in New York, the University of Chicago, and Northwestern University, both located in the Chicago area. I started a business called Grad School Roadmap in 2008 in conjunction with a book I wrote called Roadmap for Graduate Study. You can access this information on my website. You see the website address on your screen. My email address is there. I welcome a chance to continue to communicate with any of you after this event today. I could not wish you more success in your graduate school pursuits. My graduate school experiences, both at the master's and doctoral level, were two of the greatest experiences of my life. No, I'm not crying. I just got something caught in my throat. And I want to close before turning it over to Laura for a final goodbye. If you are tuning in based and thanks to a great institution called GradSchools.com, some of the best information out there about graduate school that you'll ever find, and the process of getting ready for grad school is on GradSchools.com website, and I hope you'll access it and use it many times. It's a phenomenal resource. Thanks again to you for joining us. Thanks to GradSchools.com. Have a wonderful day, and I'll turn it back over to Laura.
Thank you so much, Dr. Martin. I think that we all learned a lot from that, and thank you all for the amazing questions and your participation today. A recording of this will be available on the GradSchools.com blog, and we welcome any other questions. Please feel free to reach out to Dr. Martin or reach out to us at info@gradschools.com. And we're going to sign off now, but have a great rest of your day.